Well, hello, Hormones Balance fans, and happy Friday, everyone. Excited about the weekend? Well, I'm traveling to Vancouver in Canada this Saturday. So tomorrow, leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning, and on Monday we are gonna be starting a photo shoot for my cookbook. So that's exciting. Let me do a quick sound check, make sure that I'm using my phone, so it's a better. I think it's a better sound. Okay. Can you just guys confirm that you can hear me okay before I go on? Had an audio problem before, so I don't want to do this again. So next Friday, I think I'm gonna be transmitting from Vancouver from the studio and introduce you to the team and show you the behind the scenes, what's going on. I can tell you, photographing a cookbook, quite a challenge. And we are running into all these little things, like, for example, we just discovered that he can't find anywhere in Vancouver broccoli sprouts. And as you know, if you listen to the Q&As for a while now, broccoli sprouts are like the rock stars of hormonal balance. Hi there, Robin. You can hear me. Awesome. Thank you for confirming. We're running into all these little issues like that. And anyway, I'm sure it's going to be fine. And, Jenny McGruther. Hi, Jenny. Can't wait for the cookbook. Great to see you here. Jenny's a good friend. Jenny is the author of Nourished Kitchen, which is an amazing blog. She has like millions of followers, and she's got two cookbooks out. And I have obviously both of them, the Nourished Kitchen, and I think the Stocks and Broths, and both amazing cookbooks. Anyway, so I just want to tell you, so Jenny will tell you all about it, like what a challenge it is to photograph this book, although she photographs her own, and I'm gonna get a photographer. So, today I want to talk about something that is super important, and that is something that 30%, so think about it, 1 out of every 3 women is suffering from this particular condition. And can you guys guess what it is? Hello from Arkansas, Sandra. Thank you for all the info. You're very welcome. I'm having so much fun doing this. In fact, so this is a question I have for you. I'm going to wait for your responses. Guess what is the one hormonal condition that 1 woman out of 3 has in the country? So while I'm waiting for your responses, I'm gonna just tell you, I just want to share with you, actually I want to ask you I have a request for you guys too. I'm committed to doing this every Friday. It's time I'm allocating for Carrie saying PCOS. Nope. It's time I'm allocating every Friday, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, unless I'm sick or I'm traveling. And so far it's only been the traveling that's been happening. Alex says hi. Hi, Alex Whitmer. The one thing I would love to ask you for help is that if you know women, and I'm sure you do, in your community, Connie says thyroid, that's the one, yes. Women who in your community who are suffering from hormonal imbalances. So whether it's infertility, whether it's hair loss, whether it's miscarriages, whether it's breast lumps and cancers, whether it's fibroids, endometriosis, whether they're suffering from just horrendous moods and depression, anxiety, sleeplessness, all of those conditions can be connected to hormonal imbalances. Don't have to be 100%, but more often than not, they are. And so I wanted to ask you for help. I wanted to ask you to tell them about this broadcast that's happening every Friday so they can tune in. We've done so many, so you can do 2 things. You can tag a person, although tagging is a little bit like calling out the person on her issues. So I leave it to you, just to be sensitive about these things. A lot of women do tag their friends, sisters, other women, and saying, hey, you might like this, you might find this relevant to yours. Or the other thing you could do is share as this broadcast is going live. I think you can share it while it's going live. And hi from Slovakia, Hannah. So that we can get the word out about, changes that can happen with hormonal balance just through nutrition, which is such an amazing thing. So let's talk about thyroid. So Connie was right. Thyroid is a condition that 1 out of 3 women has in this country. And did you see the title of the talk today? I just posted that 28% of people have a problem with eggs and 30% have an issue with this hormonal thing, imbalance. That's the thyroid. And how are the eggs connected with thyroid? Now, I am not saying that eggs are bad. By no means. I mean, it is a superfood. We've been eating it for generations. It can be bad. But guess what? There is this percentage of people who Dr. Isabella Wentz, who's the New York Times bestseller of her book called the Hashimoto's Thyroiditis Root Cause, says that when she did a survey of a couple of thousand of people in her community, she's found that 28% of people can't eat eggs. I feel like, hi Clara, I feel like it's actually a low number. In my experience, it's been, when I used to work one-on-one with people, I found that actually about half of the people, women I worked with, had a problem with eggs. So food sensitivities on a chronic basis and continuously eating foods that your body's rejecting can lead to autoimmune conditions such as Graves' or Hashimoto's disease, which are the most common conditions that are causing thyroid failure. Now, thyroid doesn't happen, boom, just like that. You wake up one day because you've been eating really a lot of sugar and you've been stressed out for a couple of weeks, and then you wake up with Hashimoto's. It doesn't happen that way. Hashimoto's and thyroid conditions develop over a period of time. So before I go on about thyroid, because I'm afraid that I might lose half of you because you're like, I don't have a thyroid problem, so I'm not going to listen to this. So before you decide on that, hello, Teresa, I want to read out to you a list of symptoms. And my request is this: listen carefully, but also if you're finding that these symptoms is something that a lot of your other girlfriends are facing, then tag them down below this video or share this video on your wall so more people can see it. So let's talk about the symptoms. Unexplained weight gain. And please don't blame it on a willpower or because you had a couple of cookies too many. It's just unexplained, as in you're doing the same things as you did before and you suddenly have goes to 20 pounds, 10 pounds. They just wouldn't go away, and you start exercising more and you actually putting on more weight, or you're absolutely not losing it. You commit to a exercise program and you go running with your girlfriend, or you do gym or whatever, and she loses 10 pounds and you lose like 2, right? That is a sign. And the thyroid, I'll explain in a second, is a metabolic pedal, so that's part of the reason why you're not converting fat to energy. Energy. The next symptom is fatigue and exhaustion, like you had never experienced it before. It's not the kind of fatigue at the end of the day when you're like tired, and you're ready for bed. It's the fatigue that you just can't get out of bed. And for those of you who feel this way, I don't need to explain to you any further what it means. People who never had it can't get it. And a lot of spouses are like, what's wrong with you? Why are you sitting on a sofa all day long, right? They don't get it because that's the thyroid fatigue, which is different than any other fatigue. Feeling run down and sluggish, and it's only coffee that gets you out of bed. When you go dry and coarse skin, oh my God, that's a huge one. And then we slapping on all these oils and buy all these expensive skincare products, right? Just to feel like you have, like when you do this, you don't feel like your skin is being pulled everywhere. Well, guess what? That could be the thyroid as well, because your quality of the skin and hair also depends on the thyroid, which brings me to the next point, which is obviously hair loss, dry, brittle hair, right? That's another symptom of low thyroid function. Itchy skin could also be that. Eyebrow loss, that's huge. In fact, I had a client once who went through something really stressful with her job, or her eyelashes fell out, right? But more common is especially at the ends here, your eyebrows are beginning to fall out. Puffy eyes, especially when you wake up in the morning, you've got like that puffiness all around your face. Very often can be the thyroid. Depression, huge one, huge connection to thyroid. It's killing me. The doctors are not. I'm going to talk about why is it so underdiagnosed, right? The thyroid condition. Doctors are so quick to put patients on antidepressants, right? Which destroy people's lives. I mean, there is no joy. There's no sense of joy and elation in the life when you go on antidepressants. You view the world all through such a blank and flat life. That's not a life. It could be your thyroid. Anxiety, which is another one, like this irrational fear and worrying about, things that you know yourself. It's like you're not that person, but you're suddenly becoming worried about everything. Difficulty concentrating. Brain fog. I've had a number of clients who, because of having a severe thyroid function, they had to give up on their jobs because they couldn't focus and they couldn't do their job, including, I still remember one woman who was an air traffic controller at LaGuardia in New York. And she had to give up her job because, otherwise she would have, crushed the planes. Forgetfulness, another one. Another huge symptom, look at that first thing in the morning, swollen tongue. So when you stick your tongue out first thing in the morning, you look at the mirror. If you see teeth indentations on the side of the tongue, swollen tongue, that's a swollen tongue, which oftentimes, more often than not, is correlated with thyroid function. Brittle and breaking nails, huge indicator. Feeling cold, especially hands and feet. And, if you're the person who it needs to put on a sweater while everybody's running around in their t-shirts, that's an indicator, because your thyroid is a metabolic pedal, including control of your body temperature the thyroid controls that. Throat discomfort and tightness. When people have Hashimoto's, the immune system starts attacking the thyroid. It's the sense of tenderness. It becomes just sensitive to that attack. It's like, imagine if you were hitting your thyroid all day long, right? It will become sensitive. And so it's the same thing as the immune system over a period of time, gently, but very consistently and chronically. What if you're always too hot? Alex is asking. Great question. It could be either hot flashes or hyperactive thyroid. Overactive thyroid is less common than underactive, although some women have it both. Like I started off with hyper and then I went to hypo. Robin is saying she's got thyroid after giving birth to her son, been on Synthroid ever since, seemed to be fine until, oops, I didn't see the rest of the message. Like for example, I remember when I was first diagnosed in 2008, hello Hella from Minnesota, I love the work you do, thank you. I like wearing chokers, and the choker that I always wore was like the second pin. That was that was the length or the size that I needed. And when I started having thyroid issues, it just felt tight. And that's an indicator. If shirts that you wear, like turtlenecks, are beginning to feel tight, that's an indicator there is some swelling that could be going on here. Irregular menstrual periods, another one. Low sex drive. Of course, low sex drive could also be due to low estrogen, low testosterone. But, in combination, if you look at it in combination with those other symptoms, that it gives you an indication, hold on a second, I'm also cold. I don't want to have sex with my partner. My hair is falling out. These things are an indication that you need to investigate further. And I'll tell you in a second about it. Hi, Liz from NZ. So I guess that's New Zealand. Infertility and miscarriages. That is something that I'm going to start crying in a second, because that is a hugely emotional thing. If you heard about like hypothyroid mom, she's lost her baby because of thyroid. So many miscarriages in this country are happening because of low thyroid function, and there is not enough thyroid to help to grow the fetus, and that's what creates the miscarriage. Difficulty expressing yourself. So guess what? The thyroid is the communication chakras. For those of you who like yoga or energetic medicine, we have different chakras or energetic points that represent different things. The chakra here is your communication chakra. I know I've had a lot of clients who had thyroid problems who were writers in the past, and they can't write anymore because they had this block, right? And that's not unusual, because a lot of times it's the thyroid, which of course contributes to your mental function and how sharp you are, and so that can feed in as well. Constipation is another one. Also, one more thing I don't have here, but I'm just remembering, is high LDL cholesterol, so the bad cholesterol. Even though you're eating well, meaning it doesn't mean you have to be vegetarian or vegan, because mind you, in this space here, I'm not a fan of veganism and vegetarianism if you have serious hormone problems, because it's not going to help your thyroid. But when you're eating well, as in you're not binging on sugar, you're eating whole foods, you're not eating, hi Sheila from Texas, you're not eating hydrogenated oils and eating out all the time and that kind of stuff, right? You're eating whole foods. Then what is happening is that you should be having normal cholesterol. thyroid hormones sweep out the bad cholesterol if you made in the blood. And so women with high LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, also an indicator there could be a thyroid here at play. And being socially distant, that's another one, which kind of, I think, is correlated with the communication chakra. So those symptoms are highly correlated with the thyroid. It's not the only ones, but if you are having more than, I would say, 2 or 3 of those, you're gonna get tested. And so I'll talk about this in a second. There's a list of other things I wanna mention that could be, you know, a lot of times people with thyroid issues have, but they can also be due to other things. So they are things like lack of motivation, belly fat, acne, eczema, water retention, digestive discomfort. That's huge because a lot of people who have thyroid also has Hashimoto's, so that's correlated. Diarrhea, acid reflux, intestinal gas, candida, which is a yeast overgrowth, right? Muscle aches, cramps, muscle loss, osteopenia or osteoporosis, hypoglycemia, frequent colds, low levels of vitamin D, B12, and ferritin. Hala is saying, oh my God, I have all of that. Right. So now, you know, I want to tell you, I'm going to talk about a few other things, but one thing I want to tell you about is this documentary. Have you guys, who has seen this online? And if Diana, if you're listening, Diana is my assistant, the one and only. Diana, if you could post the link to the movie in the comments so you can see, look for Diana, look at the link. If you're listening on replay, I'm going to post the link above the video so you know. Who has seen this movie so far? The Thyroid Secret. And it's a documentary. I'm part of it. It's a 9-part documentary. And Michelle is saying, I have high LDL cholesterol and I feel like you're talking to me here, and really nutrient-dense diet, etc. Yeah, let's talk about the causes in a second. So I want to tell you about this documentary because, so for those of you who have watched it, what did you think? I'm part of this as well. There's 2 segments I'm in. One is a cooking demo, which is a lot of fun to do with Isabella. And number 2 is I talk about thyroid nodules and cancer in a connection with estrogen dominance specifically. Hey, you guys, I want to do a shout out for this documentary. It's whether it's for yourself or whether you want to send it or buy it for people, or just send them the link first about the free documentary. So every day, you know how it works, right? Every day is, Alex saying, is very, very, very informative. Yeah, I think it's also very inspiring. There's a lot of stories of patients, both heartbreaking, you sit and cry, and there are stories that are like, wow, I can do this, you know, like I don't have to be that person who's suffering. So where can you find it, Hella? Well, it's gonna be online. The link is gonna be in a second in the link. Look for that, or look after the replay. I'm gonna post the link. So the documentary is what Dr. Isabella Wentz created. She's the author of Hashimoto's thyroiditis Root Cause. It was the first self-published book that hit the New York Times bestseller, you guys. I mean, for those of you who are authors here, you know what a big deal that is. Because New York Times doesn't pick self-published books, which tend to be kind of crappy. But her book became so big that it became such a hit. And so, you know, yeah, so watch this over the weekend. It's opening on March. Sorry, you can't do it yet. It's opening on March 1st, but you can sign up now and then get prepped up. It works this way that every day there is a new video opening up over 9 days. Watch it when you can. If you can't, just get the DVD. Very simple. So let's see. What I want to talk about, and that's a big part of the series, is, should I say, definitely want to watch it? Absolutely. So I want to share with you guys, many of you asked here, I'm eating really well, I've got this thyroid thing going on, why am I suffering from this? And more importantly, the reason why I started with the symptoms is because so many people are not aware that they have a thyroid problem because of poor diagnostic tools. So let me tell you first, the 4 things that a good physician will do for you when you walk in and you say, my hair is falling, I'm cold all the time, marriage 6 months ago, those are screaming symptoms. And so a good physician will do 4 things. Number 1, will listen to your symptoms. Like really listen and connect with you and not be like, you know, doing bloody paperwork, right? Number 2, they will ask about your health history. Where have you lived? Have you lived near a toxic place? Have you been on chronic, you know, like continuous back-to-back antibiotics? Do you have Lyme? Have you ever had mono infections? I'll talk about this in a second. And then number 3, they'll ask about your family history. So family history is, does your mom have a thyroid problem? Did your grandma have a thyroid issue? Does your sister have thyroid issues, right? And number 4, that's when they look at the lab tests. No good physician would just look at lab tests. And I feel like doctors have become paper pushers. They look at your labs, which are incomplete, about that in a second, and say, you're fine, you're great to go, no problem, you don't have a problem at all. You don't have a thyroid issue. Here's an antidepressant. Ooh, right? So, talk about mono and infections. Excuse me. So, you know, there was this great doctor called Dr. Fasano. And he's like one of those physicians who is an MD, and he's educating doctors on autoimmunity. And he said, actually, let me step back a second. Most thyroid conditions and the conditions that and I mentioned the symptoms that I mentioned just now are because of Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune disease. It means the immune system is attacking the thyroid. And because of the autoimmune mutation, imagine your immune system is going crazy. It's a mutation. I don't know about you, but when I read about this, first I was like, I'm mutated? What have I done to myself that my body is confused and is attacking my own thyroid? You know, I thought fundamentally as a philosophy that just sounded so wrong. And I thought, if I do this to myself, then I can undo this as well, right? And that's completely doable. So there are certain labs, shall I say, that doctors do skip. I'll talk about the labs in a second. So let's establish first, most thyroid conditions are autoimmune diseases because of Hashimoto's, right? Now, why do you have an autoimmune disease? Because of 3 things that can happen. This is what Dr. Fasano, that I started talking about, says, that an autoimmune disease can only exist when it's like a 3-legged stool. So imagine it's a 3-legged stool. I'm not showing it really well, but you can imagine, right? 3-legged stool. For the stool to stand on the 3 legs, you're going to have all 3 legs in place, right? Otherwise, it's not going to exist. And those 3 things, for you to have an autoimmune disease, such as thyroid, Hashimoto, or celiac, or Crohn's, or multiple sclerosis, and all of that, is 3 things. One is a genetic predisposition, right? But don't think that because your mom has it, you're going to have it. There's the thing that trigger that, which is a lot of times stress and nutrition. Number 2 is a presence of infections, or antigens as you call it. And here will be things like parasitic, viral, and bacterial infections that can trigger the immune system to go a little crazy and can manifest in form of Hashimoto's. The 3rd leg of that stool, my friends, is your permeability of your gut, which is basically also known in a pop culture of nutrition as the leaky gut, right? And so leaky gut means, you know, stuff. What causes leaky gut? I mean, gosh, everything from antibiotics for a long time, stress, eating gluten for a long time, eating dairy for a long time, and your body's not tolerating it. We've got a whole article coming out of leaky gut. If you're following hormonesbalance.com, sign up to the list. You will know when new articles are coming out. So the next one that we're going to be publishing next week is on leaky gut and the hormone connection. Those 3 things, in one more time: genetic predisposition, antigens in form of bacterial, viral, and parasitic infections, and the leaky gut can trigger the your Hashimoto's and having that whole thyroid problem. Why is it so underdiagnosed? So let's talk about diagnostic tools. That is the part that drives me crazy. And because that's the reason why we have so many women suffering in this country who are on antidepressants, who are on medications for all sorts, right? Which including like sleeping pills, and they never get a good night's sleep, and they're losing their hair, they're losing their jobs, they're losing their babies, they're losing their relationships and husbands because they are so useless and so tired and so bitchy and so, you know, tired of life that no partner ever wants to be with them. And that is because we are not diagnosing it properly. So let's talk about the 5 tests that you've got to ask your doctor. If all of the symptoms I mentioned just now, you're like, boom, 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 all of those, right? insist on getting that through your doctor, or you can order it online yourself. So let's talk about that in a second. Let me give you the tests first. The first one that every doctor will do is TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Very, very, Alex is saying she lost 2 babies in her last job. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear, you know. And I want to tell you, you're not alone in this. And I mean, this documentary, if you, just in case you're logging on now, this documentary is so empowering. It also made me, it made me cry so much, you know, like I'm just trying not to cry here. But, so what are the tests? TSH, every doctor will do it. Pretty useless test. I can tell you this now. My TSH was always perfect between even functional medicine, 1 to 2 range. That's what functional medicine wants to see, healthy TSH. I was always 1.5, 1.3. Should be fine, right? I should have no thyroid problem. I was sick as a dog. I had Hashimoto's as well. In case you're new to this, I had Graves first. I was in my late 20s. I was put on thyroid suppressing medication. And then after that, and then of course 8 years later, because I never addressed the autoimmune element, I didn't know that I had Graves. It all came back with a vengeance, became Hashimoto's. So TSH is the first one, very poor indicator of thyroid health. Number 2 is that doctors like to run the total T4 hormone. Total means that that's the first hormone your thyroid is producing. Total means it's the free and it's the bound one, is bound to a protein molecule. Doesn't mean anything because 2 reasons. Number 1 is total, so you want to see the free. Insist on having the free T4. Okay, so I hope you're writing this down. And then that T4 is actually kind of useless, doesn't do anything for your body, is that it needs to be converted in your liver and your gut to T3. T3 is your working horse. And you want to ask your doctor to measure for the free, F-R-E-E, free T3, please, and not the total T3. Because again, you want to see how much of that is the body is making available for you to actually have beautiful hair and good skin and good brain function and energy and healthy weight and all of that good stuff. T3 is responsible for that. Guess what? Most doctors test for TSH and total T4. It doesn't give you the picture of what else is going on, the T3 and then the other 2 tests, which most doctors are super reluctant to do, and Robin is right, is the thyroid antibodies. They hate to do it. They will tell you, oh, the antibodies fluctuate, every day is different. They are not a good representation of what's going on with your thyroid. And that's a total BS. Because the antibodies will show you how aggressive the immune system is in attacking your thyroid. Wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't you want to know that your thyroid is on fire? The immune system is on fire because it's attacking your thyroid? Of course you want to know, right? So there's 2 types of antibodies. TPO, so it's TPO stands for thyroid peroxidase antibodies. And the second one is anti-TG antibodies, thyroglobulin antibodies. Both of them show different parts of the immune system. I'm not going to go into details. The point is, those are the 5 things you're going to ask. Actually, there's one more, which is reverse T3. And so it's TSH, it's a free T4. Tests to do. Okay, can you guys still see me? Because it's showing me that I've got a connection issue. I don't know whether you guys can, whether we're good. Just let me know that you can hear me. It's all good. So insist on those tests, right? And Dasha is saying yes. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. So this is really what it is, and you froze a little. Okay, cool. So it sounds like it's better than what I thought. So like I said, if you're just logging in, my request to you is if you know people who have thyroid issues, help women get the word out to help other women so they don't have to go through maybe what you're going through or the symptoms that I described. Because I can tell you one thing, hell, that thyroid puts you in hell. It does. That's how it feels. I was so lucky to be diagnosed really quickly within a couple of months, but it's because I educated myself and I went to the doctor. I was diagnosed in Shanghai in China. So doctor, I mean, it was 9 years ago, right? Things were pretty, like, people really didn't know that stuff, right? So I really insisted. I read up about it, and I'm like, I want you to test my antibodies. And guess what? My TSH, T3, and T4 were all perfect ranges. It was my antibodies that were really high. Krista Robina is saying reverse T3. Yes. So one more thing, thank you for mentioning that. So one more thing you want to ask for, especially if there's a lot of stress in your life, is reverse T3. Reverse T3 is it's a real little bugger because what it does is it parks itself in a T3 receptors, blocking the real T3 from doing its work, but it doesn't do anything. So measure your reverse T3, and there is a percentage that you want to have, which is basically you take the T3. Actually, sorry, first before that, when you look at your reverse T3, can thyroid problems cause anxiety? Sarah is asking. I think, Sarah, you missed the first part of the symptoms list. The answer is yes, absolutely. That was one of my symptoms. So you take the reverse T3 to convert it to the same measurement as the T3. The labs will give you, there's a different value, so you need to convert it. And then you take the T3 divided by reverse T3, and it should be more than 20. If it's below 20, that means you have too much of reverse T3, and that's blocking the work of T3. So thank you for mentioning this, because one of the things that's happening for a lot of women is that on paper, they have sufficient T3, but you still don't feel great, right? Like all the symptoms I talked about, that's because you could be having high reverse T3. And I have seen a lot of times high reverse T3 in women who have a lot of stress going on. And that's why the reverse T3 goes up. Okay, so get that. And, what can you do? I mean, thyroid is not straightforward. That's why Isabella created the 9-part documentary here. I am so passionate about this documentary. I haven't watched all the episodes yet. I've watched about 5 of them, so I got 4 more to go. They are like, this girl goes deep. In fact, can I just tell you on a personal note, I was living in Iceland, and what happened was my partner and I decided to go our separate ways, and so I needed to finish my book, and I came back to the US. I didn't want to go back to California. That's where I lived prior to leaving the United States. And the reason why I moved to Boulder, Colorado, where I am now, is because Isabella and her husband, Michael, who I adore, are both here. And part of the reason why we developed such a great friendship is because, there are practitioners who do things out of business and are monetarily driven, and there are people who do things from a place of mission and heart and passion. And I have to tell you, I mean, they are just one of those who, you have no idea how hard she's worked for the past 8 months, traveling around, interviewing the best subject matter experts. And it's just not just about, pretty stories about thyroid and inspiration and giving people it's all the stuff that I talked about, right? It really goes deep into treatments. There's so many different treatments that are really cutting edge, whether it's low dose nextextrone or whether it's different laser technologies, and the list just goes on and on and on. But also how to evaluate your thyroid and how to work on it when you were pregnant. If you had miscarriages before, there's a special treatment protocol for women who had miscarriages to get your thyroid up higher, which most doctors have no clue about. So make sure you guys watch this documentary because it is just absolutely awesome. And then tag people who you think are gonna benefit from this, okay? So let's see, what questions do we have coming in today? I'm gonna wait for a little while and see the questions. You're gonna guys keep it short because the messages are showing up on the phone for like literally 3 seconds and then they disappear and I can't go back to them while I'm doing live. I know technology is such kind of weird, but this is the way it is. So let's see what questions you have, and I would prefer to take questions on the thyroid today if possible. And while I'm waiting, I'm just gonna share with you what I did to help my thyroid condition. So, with autoimmune diseases, it's kind of tricky, and so for some people, it's like just a matter of getting off gluten and upping their vitamin D levels, and then they're like, boom. The antibodies go down, they put Hashimoto's to remission, right? And maybe that's you, that's all you have to do. Yeah, Alex, great question. Epstein-Barr virus mimic thyroid misfunction. So I wouldn't say that it mimics it. What tests should I ask for the first thyroid test? Mona is asking. Hey Mona, I just mentioned all the tests. So go back to the replay once I'm done with this, and you can hear it's about halfway through. So just a quick one: TSH, free T4, free T3, antibodies, TPO, TGB antibodies, and reverse T3. So that's 6 of them. And so EBV is a great question. Can it mimic? A lot of the symptoms are very similar, as you heard me go through, like those body aches and pains, feeling very fatigued. And Dasha, I'm gonna get to your question in a second. So I wouldn't, but so there is an overlap of symptoms for sure, but more importantly, EBV that's untreated is going to trigger, could be triggering the autoimmune response, meaning the Alex, Heather is saying. Absolutely. So I agree with that. Is definitely what I have seen a lot of the time. People start off with EBV, then the doctor tells them they are cured, they put on antibiotics. It's kind of crazy because EBV is a virus. You can't really kill a virus with antibiotics. EBV, right? So anyway, yeah, that can be triggering the immune system to go a little crazy. 50 years old, what foods do you suggest I should eliminate? She did the sensitivity test and came back. I couldn't catch the rest of it. So good question. You know, I talk about the elimination diet and how to do this. If you have any antibodies, does this mean Hashi's? Melinda is asking. So Hashimoto's is diagnosed based on 2 antibodies that I mentioned, TPO and TGB. It's a good question. If you have other antibodies going on, that could confirm another autoimmune disease. So, you know, every autoimmune disease has got a set of antibodies. Celiac has got its own, Crohn's has got its own, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia is it's by ruling out the different symptoms. So yeah, so you can confirm various, lupus is another set of autoimmune diseases. What about nodules? Zoe's asking. Hey Zoe, so great question. I'm gonna talk about nodules next week because it connects with estrogen, and that's one of my talks in the movie as well. Get rid of milk, Sheila is saying. I totally agree. So about this food sensitivity, somebody asked, you know, I would recommend to do the Cooking for Balance free workshop that I offer. Just go to cookingforbalance.com. I teach how to do the elimination diet. Robin, I'm going to get to this in a second. Question about Synthroid. Great question. Because the food sensitivities, I talk about it, how to remove them and how to add them back in. But just very quickly, gluten, dairy, corn, soy, sugar are the big ones. Dasha is saying Whole30. Yeah, I guess for some people who want to follow that, I heard great things about them. So the question that came in just now about, gosh, I'm blanking out. What was the question just now about that I said I'm gonna get to it? I forgot. Okay, so just to share with you, like in terms of my journey, what I had done was mine was not as straightforward as for some people. Like, you know, like I mentioned, I've been off dairy, gluten, soy for a very, very long time. It's definitely helped me to bring the antibodies down, but also I gave up my job. I got out of advertising. Oh, Synthroid question. That was the question just now. I'll talk about Synthroid in just a second on natural thyroid as an option. So, you know, that the reason why, yeah, so I got off all these foods, stress, I got out of advertising because it was really stress. I mean, I was on so much of stress. Air travel really depletes me so badly, I can't tell you. And I could just feel all of those factors playing a role in my body. But also, you know, I lived in China for 4 years. When I was diagnosed in 2008, I was in Shanghai. And I mean, it's China, you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's polluted, the water sucks, you can't get organic food, the air you're breathing, I mean, you know, there's only so much you can control, but not in China. So I think it really, I do feel that I had Hashimoto's for way longer than that, so I'm not blaming China, but China definitely sped up the symptoms. So I got out of there and I took a much slower job in Seattle, clean air, you know, just that I can control the kind of foods that I can eat, and that definitely has helped me to put me on a healing journey. So let's talk about Synthroid. This is going to be the last question I'm going to do today. I need to get ready for my flight tomorrow, which leaves, I need to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of things to do before the end of the day. I'm leaving for a month. So just a quick last issue about Synthroid. And again, you know, there's so many different discussions about which meds are great and which ones are not and which ones to choose. The thing with with taking Synthroid or natural, like things like Nature-Throid, it's great. I mean, I think here's my take on this and my recommendation for you is look at things from a short-term and a long-term perspective, right? So create a short-term plan, things that will help you right away, and then think of a long-term plan that is gonna get you to where you want to be in your overall good health, right? So the first one is short-term plan. Get on meds, on thyroid medication if you're feeling absolutely awful. If you find it foggy brain, you have no energy to get off, kelp helps me. Carol, I want to just precaution on that. Kelp is very high in iodine. For people who have a high antibodies, TPO antibodies, kelp actually can really make things worse. So just be very careful when it comes to iodine dosing. So you can't get off the sofa. You're absolutely exhausted. You're brain fogged, right? You can't even put a meal plan together to get yourself better, right? Get on Synthroid, get on Nature-Throid just to get you to feel better. But with the vision that you want to get off those meds, because to me you're basically putting a band-aid on something that's going on in your body, right? You're giving yourself the thyroid hormone that your thyroid is underproducing, but you're not addressing the autoimmune fire that's going on. Like, why is your body attacking your own thyroid? You know, it's a little bit like having a leak in a house. Imagine, like, if I was doing a call right now and there's a leak in my house, and I'll be like, I just paint it over. I just take a brush and I get a paint from whatever, Home Depot, and I'm gonna just paint it over. I mean, wouldn't you rather go up to the roof and fix the roof, right? So to me, Synthroid or Nature-Throid is like painting over the leak, not fixing the leak. So the difference between those meds, I'm not going to get into that because I'm not a medical practitioner. Plus, the movie talks a lot about that, and you have great doctors having opinions on that. Different people respond to different medications, and there are some people who really respond terribly to some meds, and so I think it's really important to get educated on that. Get the documentary, watch that. And then having your your long-term plan, if you're getting on meds, saying, I'm going to clean up my diet, I'm going to figure out a way to distress myself. I'm going to optimize my liver function. I'm going to fix my gut. I'm going to remove all these toxic people and thoughts out of my life, right? You know, autoimmune diseases, as much as it can be a real bitch that enters your life, it can also be the biggest thing you can be grateful for, because it's going to help you clean out your life and the people in your life like never before. I can tell you that. So many people who had Hashimoto's, and talk about that in the documentary, just in case you're logging in late, the documentary that Isabella Wentz put together called The Thyroid Secret, talk about that. It was the biggest blessing that I've ever experienced, because they learned so much about themselves and about their bodies, and did like a filtering of all the negative BS people and situations in their lives, right? So see it that way. Don't be angry because you have Hashimoto's. Don't be like, hey, what's going on with me? You know, like, why me? Actually, it drives me crazy when people say that. Why me? Because it's like saying, well, my neighbor should have it. Why my neighbor doesn't have it? I have it, but then you're wishing for somebody else to have it. So be nice. All right, you guys, I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna get packing and getting ready for, I'm gonna be smuggling in broccoli sprouts to Canada and all that good stuff. All right. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Do something that's really nourishing, self-loving, you know, and read up a little bit about the thyroid. I'm going to post a couple more links about thyroid conditions. And yeah, have a lovely weekend. All right. Bye, you all.